Exploring the triangle congruence theorems. Each part below contains one triangle and one figure that can be adjusted to make a triangle. The markings indicate congruence. So we have one triangle that's fixed, okay, and then one that you're going to be able to play around with, okay, lengthen sides, possibly swing the sides. Adjust the figure on the right to explore the different triangles that can be formed. Then answer the question. Note that the figure will not be graded. Okay, so it doesn't really matter what you do over here. That's not really part of your response. It's just kind of a tool to let you play around and see if you can build any other triangles, okay, besides the one that is congruent to this one over here. Okay, you're trying to build a different triangle over here. Because if you can build a different one, then, right, these triangles don't have to be congruent. But if the only triangle you can make over here is congruent to that one, okay, then, right, given this information or these markings, then we know that two triangles would have to be congruent. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is look at the markings. Now, these two angles are marked as a corresponding pair of congruent angles, right? Those two little arcs inside this angle, matching the two little arcs in that one, mean that those two angles are congruent to each other. Okay, they're a corresponding pair of congruent angles. These two sides are a corresponding pair of congruent sides. Okay, and these two angles are a corresponding pair of congruent angles. Okay, the other two sides, right, may or may not be congruent to each other, and this last angle that gets formed may or may not be congruent. That's what we're trying to figure out, is if these three parts of the triangle are fixed, okay, and are congruent to each other, does this triangle have to finish out and become exactly like that one, or could I make a different one, right, that isn't congruent? I mean, that's essentially what we're asking ourselves here. So what I have is, right, two angles that are congruent. The side that's in between, right, those two angles, and another pair of congruent angles. So we call this angle side angle because the side is in between those two angles, angle side angle. So if we have angle side angle pairs that are congruent, is that enough to then just say, well, the rest of the triangle, the other two sides and the other angle also have to be congruent? Okay, and if you play around with this, right, or here I've kind of given myself a little drawing, there really is only one way to finish out this triangle, okay? If those three, angle, side, angle, that part of the triangle can't change, then the rest of the triangle will only complete itself one way. Okay, you'll only be able to make one triangle, okay? So these two have to be the same, okay? So we're going to mark, yes, the triangles must be congruent, and the reason is going to be angle, side, the side in between, angle, congruence theorem. Okay, now we're going to look at this one, right? Adjust the figure on the right to explore the different triangles that can be formed, okay? So again, you get to play around with this one. The parts of the triangle that are fixed on this pair are one pair of angles here, okay, another corresponding pair of angles. But this time the side that's marked congruent is not between those two angles, right? It's over here. So we call this one angle, angle, side, okay? Angle, angle, side markings. And again, you can play around with this to see, right, if you can make two different triangles given that those three pieces have to stay fixed, okay? So I have a little drawing here, right, of angle, angle, side congruence. And if you play around, okay, with your manipulative here, you will see that there really is only one way to finish out this triangle, okay, that you're never going to be able to make any other triangles here, Okay, it has to finish out that way. Even if you could like move these two angles together, the only way that you'll ever be able to complete the triangle is if it looks exactly like that one. Okay, so these two triangles must also be congruent, but this time it's going to be by the angle, side congruence theorem. Okay, because this side is not in between these two angles like it was up here. Right, so this one is angle, side versus angle, side, angle that we had in part A.